Welcome to the Digital Government Podcast. Tune in to discover the future of governance and ways of getting there.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Digital Government Podcast. This is your usual host, Federico Plantera, journalist, sociologist, and researcher, today hosting Kadi Kanarpik, who is a senior expert in the Governance and Engagement Competence Center at e-Governance Academy. Kadi, new face, new voice to the podcast. Welcome.
Welcome to everyone.
Welcome to everyone to this episode where we are going to address a topic that is related to, I would say, employment, but also just in general working in the public sector, but with a focus on IT and IT experts. What do I mean with this? First of all, why are we doing this with Kadi? Kadi has worked for over 20 years in the public sector in Estonia, where basically her last post in the public sector before joining e-Governance Academy was as director of the employment department in the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Communications. But prior to that, there has been also posts in passive labor market measures, meaning unemployment benefits and the likes, but also active labor market policies. So, for example, getting people re-employed, let's say. I'm oversimplifying, but this is obviously for everyone's benefit. So, Kadi, I would actually start exactly from the question that, in a way, stems from the title of this episode. Meaning, today we're talking about how to make working in the public sector attractive for IT experts. But obviously, the question is, why? Is it not already? And if so, what's your take on that?
I can't agree. It's not attractive. I think that working in the public sector actually is meaningful and gives to the expert wide opportunities to develop and grow. But in some reasons, there is quite a well-known knowledge that people, especially young people, do not want to, or they don't know how to get to work in the public sector. So maybe we could look into what public sectors could do to attract and retain these people to the public sector.
Funnily enough, one of those examples of young people who find the public sector very attractive is right in front of you. In the sense that one thing, for example, that I remember when coming to Estonia and starting to be an actor, let's say, in the Estonian labor market, an agent, let's say, someone that moves within this socioeconomic context, one thing that was particularly interesting to me was exactly the difference that there is in Estonia, for example, with other European countries, let's say. I'm speaking obviously of the contexts that I know about, with definitely like a certain level of transitioning, let's say, from the public sector to the private, but also from the private to the public. So a bit more of the sort of exchange than I've seen in other countries, for example, in old Europe, let's say. So let's describe instead a little bit the current situation exactly in the labor market concerning the recruitment of IT professionals. So how does that situation look like at the moment? Where are we in Estonia, but also beyond? Because maybe there are some reasons that explain what I have seen and also just referred to.
Yes. Our main topic today is the recruitment of IT people in the public sector. But it is also important, as you said, to understand the reasons for the labor shortage in general. So talking about reasons why we are in the shortage in the labor market, first of all, definitely the fact that our population is aging. It's in all over the world. For example, different studies say that 1 in 6 of the world's population will be aged 60 and over by 2030. So it means quite a lot of people are leaving the labor market. So we're leaving people from the labor market. In addition, there is a lack of people with the right skills. Employers can't find employees with the right skills for them. So other opportunities must be found, as they cannot be obtained directly from the university or vocational training. So if we, example, are talking about ICT professionals in Estonia, it is estimated that there is a shortage of more than 30,000 ICT experts in Estonia. So, when we think about working, then working has changed for the people. People's expectations for the working have changed. For example, if people expect flexible working hours. They expect work and life balance. So they want to work remotely, and so on and so on. So it's changed quite a lot, and I think that the push forward was by the COVID-19 also. So people tried different ways of working, and they liked, and they would like to do it more and more. So if we're talking about ICT sector, so then in addition to what we mentioned above, there is also general expansion of digital transformation, the importance of data analysis, and so on. And it's causing the high demand. And this is a challenge that is faced by most governments across the world. And this trend is expected to continue. For example, it's estimated that the employment of ITC professionals is expected to increase by 30% from 2022 to 2035. So the public sector needs to put more input into the recruitment and retaining strategies to attract these ICT people.
Like in demography studies, there is something that is called the replacement rate, no? So if we talk about, for example, the replacement rate in the labor market, definitely, like as you have said already, this we're not able at the moment to forecast that we could sustain, let's say, the pace of people exiting the labor market compared to those who enter the labor market. If we match that with more longer-term demographic trends about, for example, cohorts and birth rates, we see that it's not just exactly a problem of right now, how is the situation of how many people are entering the labor market in the next 5 to 10 years compared to those that are getting retired, but actually in the longer term, even like from the next 20 to 40 years time, this will be, not to sound too catastrophic about it, but it's likely to be made worse by the fact that at the same time, the birth rates in most countries, not just in Europe, but in the whole world, are decreasing, so that our populations are shrinking, let's say, or at least the growth of our populations is shrinking.
Yes.
So in that sense, when it comes then to labor market and the public sector specifically, obviously there have to be certain factors that attract people towards applying for public sector jobs or finding it at least appealing, fashionable. You mentioned a series of benefits and perks, let's say, how are they usually defined, that people expect in a way, no, like from new jobs that they aim to get into. At the same time, one of the elements that is often brought up in terms of the private sector is more competitive than the public sector in this sense, in terms of recruiting IT professionals, is the fact that the pays are higher, no? So if we focus on this point of the salaries, is it enough to just pay more money to IT professionals, let's say, to solve all the recruitment and retaining as well problems of the public sector?
Yes, it's quite easy to say that money solves everything, but I disagree. We know that the basic salary is important. We can't argue with that. But it is not sufficient on its own to retain employees. So various organizations done some researches and on what ICT people want. They have answered to the questionnaires, and for example, studies from the Bain, Gartner show that the top reasons that are important to ICT professionals are actually learning, and growth opportunities, work-life balance, flexibility. Why they leave is insufficient rewards or recognition from the work. They expect clear career paths, how to they could develop and so on. In the context of retaining people, we also must consider that the nature of work and the duration of employment have changed significantly over time. And we can't assume that people will work in the same job and with the same employer all their lives. So especially younger people put less emphasis on the idea of spending their career with one employer. So, and they will have 2, 3, 4 or more careers during their or working life. So the salary could be better in one organization, but if there is a possibility to work remotely or there are no development opportunities, then there is a possibility that the candidate choose another organization where these opportunities are offered. So in the context of monetary motivation system, in addition to the basic salary, if we look other countries' practices, then different bonuses are paid, but also different programs are developed. For example, employee wellness programs, maybe programs that include mental health support, fitness challenges, health insurance, and so on and so on. And also quite often is offered extra vacation days, paid sick leave, retirement plan, and so on and so on.
The salary is not enough. So,
No.
And you mentioned also the surveys, which means what are instead then the things and the elements that could complement, let's say, the monetary returns, so like pay?
If we're talking about the work in the public sector, people are looking for a job what is important, what is meaningful. So they could put their input in their job and accomplish something, to be useful, to change something in the society. So this is quite important also for the young people, as I said. So these are important. Of course, people want to have a clear career path, so they could develop. This is also important. Also, I mentioned work-life balance. This is important for the people. Of course, very good leadership. It's important for the people when they could do something together with their team. It's important. So good working environment is important for the people, and the quite different things. But I have to say that it's important to ask from your people what is important for them. So you know what makes them happy, what makes them unhappy, and where's the need, you can change your motivation system. So you can use different surveys. You can use maybe exit interviews, why people are leaving, what's not right. Performance interviews in every year, or let's say one-to-one conversations in every week or month. So ask from your people what is important for them, what motivates them, what keeps them going, and so on. So it's important to ask and then change the motivation system, because the motivation system is never ready, actually, because labor market is changing so rapidly, and especially during the last years. So you have to change it by time and time, so it's never ready.
You mentioned a motivation system, but motivation exactly doesn't come just from thin air, let's say. Like someone doesn't go into a job and say, oh, I'm so motivated into this job, and then they manage to keep constant, let's say, this motivation throughout time. Obviously, I'm assuming that, that would be the dream for an employer, that they just hire someone, that from a scale from 1 to 10 has a motivation of 8, let's say, because it's just the new thing, starting a job, etc. And then They would expect, from the employer perspective, that in 5 years' time, the person is even has an even higher level of motivation. But there are many factors that are job-related, but also not job-related, that do play into keeping up this motivation, let's say. So keeping this sort of like employer perspective and employer point of view, what should we keep in mind when developing a motivation system that retains IT professionals? Because when we speak of motivations, we're not referring just to what is written down in the contract that you get on this job, no?
Yes, developing motivation system requires a balanced approach, actually, that includes both monetary and non-monetary incentives that align with the organization goals and the culture. And the organization needs to understand what are employees' expectations. So it is important to realize that implementing a motivation system, as I said, is an ongoing process. And to attract and keep people, the pay is not anymore enough, and employers should be able to offer the people what they are really looking for. And to understand it, it's important to ask from them. So, but there are not universal solutions for all the countries, organizations, when creating a motivation system. This means that the social security system of a particular country, for example, if we're talking pension system or health insurance and so on, we have to consider the labor market situation, the principles of the public service in this particular country, the regulation of the labor relations and so on, and other important circumstances must be taken into account when we are creating this motivation system.
You spoke of other countries, and you spoke of other countries because also in the question so far, we used, we referred to Estonia only marginally, because exactly, from country to country, in the same way as the socio-economic and demographic compositions change, net of global trends that we have already mentioned, obviously as well, best practices in terms of recruiting and retaining personnel for the public sector, it's not that they change, they have to change basically from a place to another. Could you give me some of the examples, let's say, of practices in recruitment and retaining that are used worldwide and that have proven in their own specific context to be particularly effective, let's say?
Yes, but we have to go a little bit backwards if we're talking about recruitment. With the time, the recruitment has also changed quite a lot. So it's not only the employer who selects the employee, but the employee also evaluates whether the organization is suitable for him or her. So the public sector employees must also think about what they have to offer to the potential candidate. So what is your value proposition? What kind of professional growth opportunities can you offer? What are the benefits of working in your organization? So it is important to consider the reasons why potential candidate would choose to work in your organization over other potential organization. And the recruitment process has to be very quick and user-friendly and to attract ICT professionals. So long processes for placing the candidate, long job ads on the government websites waiting for someone to apply might not be very effective anymore. So with longer recruitment process, there is also a risk that the suitable candidate will start working elsewhere. Today's labor market expects employees to be more proactive and to be out there. For example, cooperation with universities, offering internship opportunities, social media platforms, and so on. So you have to be there to be visible. As we're talking about employment brand, it's important in convincing the potential candidate to apply. As I read in one OECD report, they also draw attention to the importance of employer brand. Hence, if you do not know anything about this public sector organization, what they do or how interesting and professionally developing work I could be doing there, then it's unlikely that I will go to work in that organization. So attracting candidates is a complex task and means that the public sector organizations must involve in the recruitment process different kind of recruitment tools and methods to meet the expectation of the specific groups that the public sector tries to hire.
Kadi, you just mentioned something that I have encountered as well in quite some moments, and it is sometimes you see these job ads that are so long and they have like so many requirements and they expect you to have like so much knowledge of some. Then there are like so many, I don't know, shortened sentences like SQL and like this and this one. It's I'm mentioning SQL just to say one, but there could be so many. But the question on this is, does an employee actually need to have all of these things in place to be suitable in order to be considered for a job of that kind? Yeah, I'm sure that there are some posts that require exactly, such extensive specific knowledge. But when you're entering a position in a new organization and it's not one of these like very, 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 very key figures that really have to know it all, let's say, are employers basically contributing to not making themselves attractive in the eyes of many employees in this sense?
Yes, if you have a job ad which is 3 pages long, most likely, if we're talking about ICT people, they don't read it. So you will lose a good candidate, most likely. So as I started the conversation about skills, we as employers expect that we have employees who are ready, who know everything, they have right competencies, right certificates, and they are just coming to the position and started their jobs. But as we know, we don't have enough people. So maybe it could be wise to hire people with maybe right competencies. They are smart problem-solving people, they're motivated and so on. Maybe we could hire people in the junior level actually, and we hire them and we teach them the skills we need, because we don't have enough people in the labor market for all the employers. So we have to teach and find some other ways to have experts in our organizations. So yes, I think that there are no need to have all these competencies, all these certificates, all these things they expect a candidate to have, but you can teach the people. And then you will have a good, motivated team member.
Kadi, there was also another question that was coming to mind, and it's related to, it was a bit of a question on, okay, we're speaking of IT professionals in this case, but what about the others? But then, like those who are not IT professionals and might not find, let's say, jobs in the public sector or like public employment as attractive as it could have been in the past, let's say, or like at the time of my parents. But at the same time, I was thinking, okay, in my personal case, for example, I coming from a context of social sciences and political science, I do know how government works, let's say, also like at different layers and like levels of government, no? But at the same time, I could easily imagine someone else, let's say, who does not come from the same academic background maybe, or well, I don't know, let's say even family history, maybe they don't have, let's say, a parent who has worked in the public sector before, looking at a job ad from a ministry, seeking to recruit IT professionals, and wondering a little bit, okay, but what does this organization actually do? Meaning, if I apply to this job, what piece of the puzzle am I actually going to fit in or to fall into, let's say? The question at this point is, do you think that maybe governments are also still gatekeeping a little bit too much information about their most inner workings that would instead help IT professionals to better recognize themselves in a job ad when they see it?
Yes, also by my own experience, public sector civil servants too, in some reason they don't want to talk about their jobs, about their organizations. But in few years ago, actually, it came to my knowledge that it's very important to talk about your work, what you're doing, how important it actually is. You're working for the people of this country. So you want to make their life better. So I think that in the public sector, the organizations must more speak what they're doing, how meaningful actually their job is, and put it in the wider picture also, how it's going to change the people's lives and so on. So you can understand, as you are the little puzzle of the big puzzle picture, how your work is going to affect actually the bigger picture and how it's going to change the bigger picture. So if you understand it, I think you're more motivated to do your job.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, which is, I don't think that there's maybe or better, there are only a few sectors I could think of. Maybe I could think of like NGOs or let's say, or civil society organizations, but there are just a few sectors that could take more pride in what they do, let's say,
Absolutely.
for the distributed dividends, let's say, that with their work bring to society in general, than the public sector itself, or than ministries, let's say, at different layers and levels, because it's not just ministries, it's also municipalities, where there is an even closer contact with your end users, aka us, all of us. So, Kari, thanks a lot for this chat. I have only a couple more things to ask you. Telegraphically, very briefly, something that cuts across, let's say, the different countries' experiences, and that you think is like a listicle of general learnings and things that definitely, just to close off this episode, listeners who are employing people or aiming to employ people in the public sector, that they have to keep in mind to be more effective at that.
It's important to create an engaging value proposition to attract IT professionals. This is for the first. Engage continuously and truly in improving the public sector and the organization brand. This is also very important. Use maybe success stories and campaigns for recruiting people. Find different ways to be visible. Keep in mind that the hiring process should be quick and easy. Then you can use direct search. So if you have a previous candidate data bank or you know someone, use the direct search. Of course, it's important to offer internship opportunities and maybe recruit in the junior level talents. Also create special IT learning programs to bring people to the public sector. Maybe this is the short list actually for hiring and retaining ICT people to the public sector. Everybody should find their own methods and use these kind of methods to hire people to the public sector.
Kadi, thanks a lot for joining us today in this podcast episode.
Thank you for everybody.
Thank you everybody indeed for joining and tuning in. That's it also from your usual host for today.
This podcast is brought to you by the eGovernance Academy. Tune in next time.